Hello, everyone, and inside today's Locked On Canadiens, it is another Friday Mailbag.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1076 of Locked On Canadiens, your daily Montreal Canadiens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every single day of the week, wherever you get your daily podcast, Google, Apple, Spotify, or on youtube.com. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and remember to make every moment more, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets right now with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 with only any $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I, of course, am one of your hosts. I am Scott Matlin. I'm joined, as always, by the active stick, Laura Saba. And Laura, thank you for taking last night's show. Well, I enjoyed an Irishman singing a bunch of songs about love and other things that I can't repeat on this show. You and Ian did a fantastic job, but it is our Friday mailbag. And that means we have a ton of questions and everything. I don't know if you want to jump right in that or if you have something else you want to jump into before we get into listener questions.
Well, I did want to read a nice letter because sometimes you just need that nice letter from one of our longtime listeners. And it was actually like a couple of weeks ago that we got it, but we haven't had a chance to discuss it yet. And it comes from our good friend, Richard J. Hi, Lauren Scott. Now that the season is over, at least for the Habs, and things are slowing down, I wanted to take a moment to send you not a question as I've done in the past, but a comment. I wanted to thank you both for so faithfully hosting Locked On Canadiens day after day and week after week. Speaking personally as a pastor, I walk with people through some of the darkest moments of their lives. Just recently, I supported a family as they said goodbye to their 14-month-old daughter who passed away suddenly, which is devastating. I consider my ministry as a vocation and something I love to do and I'm called to do. It does, however, take a toll on me mentally and emotionally. Sometimes after a difficult day, I find it hard to turn off my brain. That's where the two of you and Locked On Canadiens come in. At times when I'm exhausted, it's nice to be able to turn on your podcast and focus on something that is fun and interesting, but ultimately has no life or death implications to it unless you're a Leafs fan. Listening to your podcast gives my brain and emotion a chance to breathe. You are both so personable, so fun, and so entertaining, so thank you for helping to recharge my batteries. Amidst whatever challenges and difficulties you may be facing, I thought you might appreciate a note of encouragement. Again, thank you for hosting Locked On Canadiens and for the gifts and the spirit you bring to it. And I wanted to read this because it is a good reminder of the fact that the sport that we love is an escape. It is something for us to enjoy. It is something for us to have fun about, and it is not life or death. So, when the Canadiens maybe make a draft pick we don't like, or maybe when they're not losing enough games, when things like that happen, it's not the end of the world. Like, we are here to have fun. And that's something that Scott and I have always tried to do, is we try to be light and we try to be interesting, because a lot of the times we can do analysis and we do that, right? Like, we do get in depth sometimes, we do deep dive sometimes, but at the end of the day, we want to be an escape. We do not want to be darkening the day, right? And I think, like, for me, like, that was such a gratifying email to receive, because some of you listeners may have noticed that or not, but this has actually been one of the darkest years of my life as well. And I've struggled a lot over the course of this past year with depression, like serious depression, right? So for me, this podcast has also been a chance to kind of connect with people, maybe at a time that I find it hard to want to do anything. And so I also wanted to thank not just our good friend Richard J, the pastor, but also all of you, because for the most part, and there have been some exceptions, but you've all been so supportive, you've all been so understanding, you've all been sharing in the conversation, and I really, really just wanted to thank all of you.
We a lot on this show. I don't say we lose focus on this, but it is a show not just for us, to get paid for doing. It is a show to bring information and fun and just viewpoints to the Montreal Canadiens. We know that there is layers upon layers of media and print and radio and everything else, and that we are just a part of that. But we hope that above everything else, we can be your part of that. That, hey, I want to listen to something. What are Scott and Laura doing? Oh, they have a live show. They're doing this Friday. I don't want to miss whatever it is they are doing at that point in time. We do this show because we are both fans of this team. We are not credentialed journalists, even if we do cover games from time to time here. We are looking at this through the same lens as a lot of other people, as fans, as people who unabashedly root for this team, even when it is stupid to do so. And to know that we can help brighten up even one person's day in this is so very important to both of us, because it makes, when we hear that, hey, you answered my question and I love that. Hey, I tune in every morning, or hey, this is what I listen to when I want to kind of, shut my brain off and relax and unwind. That means a lot to us, because that means we're doing something right. Not everyone's going to agree with the way that we format the show, or the things we talk about, or the tone, or the stances that we take. That's part of being a podcast. That's just, no one 100% agrees with anything. You don't have a podcast, then you have just a bunch of people going, yes,
Mhm.
We take a lot of pride in being able to be that special group for people. And we know there are likely other people out there that, we always appreciate hearing that, hey, we did this. And we like constructive criticism on things that we can work on and things that we can fix and everything. At the end of the day, more than anything else, Locked On Canadiens is a network for fans, by fans in this group here. We are here to be right there along with you when it's good and they're in the Stanley Cup final, or when we are losing 8-2 to the Minnesota Wild and screaming at my TV. We want to be here to be those people for you. We will continue to be those people here for you. Even if formats and things change in the future, we will still be here for you 3 to 5 days a week, depending on the week.
The time of the season.
Yeah, apologies in the background. My dog is drinking out of her water dish right now. I can do about that. So, at the end of the day, we thank you so much for that support. I am hoping that even on your tough days, things do get better. I am glad that we are part of what makes those days better for you. I know it can never be easy, but to know that we have that kind of impact on even one person is extremely special to us here.
Yes, and I think one of the big things is that we can't be all things to all people. And there are podcasts that, there are lots of podcasts, and we love also hearing from you. I heard it on this podcast. What do you guys think about it, right? We're a large community, and we can't always be perfect, but we are your show. And that's why when people bring up a topic you want us to discuss, we'll bring it up. Sometimes people ask us about it, because at the end of the day, this is it. We are doing this show for you. And I also just, I want people to feel like, we're people that you could see as having a discussion with your friends and disagreeing with like what line this guy should play on or something like that, right? Like, I always want people to imagine we're all sitting around having a conversation, and then we want you to feel like part of the conversation. So the reason that I did want to read this is because I felt like, we should let the listeners know what's going on with us and thank them, because it has been a long season and I really, really, really appreciate it. So, Scott, thank you for indulging us on this moment. And I guess we'll start talking about the mailbag questions in the next segment. We do have good ones. I promise you.
Well, here's the thing too, is that it's not just you indulging, one person, but this is a tandem in this, and that everything where one of us is leading, the other one will follow. We are a team in this podcast. And that is never going to be a thing that changes, is that, that
It's
is part
always
of
a
what makes us. It did this stupid thumbs up thing again.
It
I'm
agrees
sorry.
with
I'm
you.
sorry to ruin this very heartwarming moment. I don't understand why it does this, and every now and then it comes up, and it drives me insane because I don't know what sets it off.
But it's agreeing with you.
Yeah, we've been doing this show on YouTube for 3.5 years, 4 years now, and I still don't know what causes this. Anyways, besides the point, we have so much fun off-season content coming up. I will do the Hot Ones Challenge again at some point here. We will be filling that time. We'll do a live show on a Friday. We'll have a good time with it and everything else. However, like Laura said, it is our Friday mailbag. We got a handful of questions we want to get to in this, including the Nepo Baby line in the NHL. Well, maybe not as far off as you think. But first, there is no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build your team. When you're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring platform you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's powerful hiring platform can help you do it all. They streamline hiring with powerful tools that find your match candidates. And with Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches the job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to the Indeed data in the U.S. I went through the job searching thing last year. Indeed, I posted my resume and I immediately started getting in touch with people who wanted my skill set. So start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/locked on. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/locked on. That's Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens, and as we said off the top of the show, it is the Friday Mailbag, and the Friday Mailbag is always fun because we get a ton of questions. Some are serious in that, hey, what are we thinking about? Can this be a reality? Can we do this? Can we do that? And then some are like the first one we have today, and Laura, this is one that you sent it to me in a group chat, and I went, I immediately want to do this. So
Yeah.
why don't you read off what that is right now?
So not only did you immediately want to do the question, I said I wanted to spend as much time as possible on it. This comes from our friend Kyle R. Hey guys, I had an interesting thought when you were talking draft and Teach climbed up the rankings. With TJ Ginla, I'm going to say Atos Koivu. They have to pick him, right? Right? And Miroslav Shatan Jr., draft eligible this year. Would it be possible, theoretically, to have a Nepo Baby line that's competitive in the future, looking at the past NHLer sons in the NCAA and abroad? Okay, I want this now more than I want anything ever. Even if it doesn't work, I want them to try it.
Here's the thing is, yeah, it's definitely possible. Like the NFL is having this problem right now too. Problem in that a bunch of dudes who I watched growing up are now being drafted. Frank Gore Jr. is playing on the Buffalo Bills in OTAs right now. I watched Frank Gore play up until like 2 or 3 years ago. Marvin Harrison Jr. was just drafted. Patrick Surtain II is in here. Antoine Winfield Jr. All of these players are coming into the NFL. In the NHL, we're seeing it more and more. Currently playing for the Rocket is one of Yannick Perreault's kids. Jacob Perreault plays on this team. We have already started that Nepo Baby movement going forward there. It's like, you can, not saying that Jacob Perreault is going to make the NHL team next year or anything like that, but on my wish list is Atos Koivu for this NHL draft. He has been since the minute I saw he was draft eligible. Maybe
also,
not the first
I'm
round.
Go trouble in a corner because Saku Koivu has a kid that is draft eligible this year.
Yeah, I am. The Aginla was bad enough because like they're at the top of the draft class, but every now and then it's like, oh, this player's kid is being drafted and this player's kid is being drafted, and it's like, where did the time go? Were all these kids like last year with I cannot remember the other Perreault son's name. I am so sorry. Off the top of my head, the one the Rangers picked. It's slipping my mind. I keep wanting to call him Yannick, and that's incorrect. That's his dad.
Or Gabriel, and that's the one we've got.
No, Gabriel is the one who's playing for the Rangers. We have Jacob Perreault.
Oh my god, I cannot believe I mixed up Jacob and Gabriel.
Anyways,
oh my god, we're tired.
I want. My question is, the forward group is set then, because you can have Jacob Perreault, you can have Atos Koivu, and you can have TJ Ginla. The harder part comes now is, can you find a goaltender, and can you find 2 defensemen that are Nepo babies that also fit this? And I am trying to...
we need 2 Nepo defensemen?
We need 2 Nepo defensemen, yes. and I'm currently going to Elite Prospects to look at their draft rankings right now. And I don't know if here's the thing is whether I find it or not, I'm just looking to see if there is a last name that I recognize immediately that I'm like, cool, doesn't matter if they're good or not. That's the name that I am picking. And as of right now, I am not seeing anything. God, there are a lot of people in this draft class. And I know this is making great podcasting. If they were to put that line together, like if they were to go into rookie camp and be like Atos Koivu, T. Jaginla, and Miroslav Shatan Jr., I'd be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Sure, let's see what that looks like. It's not even that far-fetched in terms of like what you could possibly have for an all Nepo Baby line in the NHL. And I think that makes it a lot of fun, actually.
I mean, I was also thinking like we could trade, right? Because there's so many. Let's do some trading. Who shall we take? We need
I
defense.
got one of the Nepo Baby defensemen, by the way.
Who is?
Martin Lapointe's son, Noah Lapointe,
No
playing
way.
in the USNT DP right now. So we've got one. I'm still looking here, but like I'm trying to think of who we could trade. Like who here has a defenseman, a Nepo Baby defenseman that we could put into this defensive core here. Man, there's a lot of defensemen in this.
There are.
Yeah, that is the only one I found with like actual like NHL like parentage in my quick like scan over this. Oh,
They're all
and then
forwards.
I'm trying to think here. What was the name of he was a Habs goalie. Cristobal Huey's son, I believe, is also draft eligible or is available as a free agent here. And my first thought is cool. Now we have the goaltending spot set too. Man,
I'm looking for a defenseman. These are all like they're all centers. Everybody's a center.
Yeah, well, apparently, yeah. Like I think that you could reasonably put together an all Nepo Baby line and it would still turn out okay. Yep, Ewan Huey playing for the Regina Pats is 19 years old, so he is eligible to be drafted. His numbers are not ideal, but also some of those were playing at World Juniors for Switzerland where they just get blown out most of the time. You know what? I'm not against it. Laura, do we have a short question that we can fit in here with this as well? I want to ask our listeners too, can you come up with the best all Nepo Baby starting lineup? So 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, and a goalie. I'm not going to worry about position for the forward group there based on the current Habs roster and this upcoming draft class. We want to hear from you. We will read some of these on potentially Monday or Tuesday's episode. You can tweet us at LO_Canadiens or LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com.
All right, so we've got a quick question from Canadiens fella who is our friend from Switzerland. And the question is, I'm at the Geneva Open watching, is it Jokovic or Djokovic?
The tennis player?
Yes.
Novak Djokovic.
Yes. Beer is 6 francs and a week's pass to the matches was 210 francs. Given the above, do you think the Habs pricing model for live games is sustainable? So here's the thing, I think, with the Habs is that people are paying those prices. So they are keeping that model, right? So like in comparison, Scott, were you just doing the exchange rate?
Yes. But I realized I put it into American and that it's in Canada, so I need the Canadian dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Still not terrible. 6 Swiss francs is $9 Canadian.
Okay.
$9 for a beer at the Bell Center is a steal of a price.
Yeah. I feel like they're probably like $16 at this point. They're definitely at least $13 a glass. And then 210 francs for the entire, I guess, tournament or a week's worth of matches. How much is that in Canadian?
You said 220 francs?
210 francs.
315 Canadian dollars.
For a week's worth of matches.
I was to say that
Canadian dollars is like 1 seat in the Reds.
Yes. Okay, so this is an article from Daily Hive about how much things cost. at a Canadiens game. Wow, things are actually a lot cheaper than I thought. It says $4.78 for a Bell Center hot dog, but it doesn't tell me how much the beer is. So, oh, there it is. $8.70 for domestic beer can in a 355. $4.73 is $11.52 a microbrew, just shy of $13. Imported beer can, $14.13. So, to get one beer at the Swiss Open, you are doing much, much better than you would at the Bell Center. Because I think the last time I went, when Julian McKenzie and I went and saw a game, a Molson Export cost me like $12, I think. And that was, oh God, it's been 6 or 7 years at this point. So
when was the Daily Hive article dated?
2013 or 2023, December of 2023.
Okay, that's surprisingly low because I have not paid that low for a beer or a hot dog at the Bell Center in an extremely long time.
I also wonder if that was in American money and not converted properly, but who knows?
That would
The
make
point of
sense.
the point of the matter is you're getting a lot better deal going to a tournament in Switzerland where you were also in Switzerland. And not that I don't love downtown Montreal, but you're in Geneva. Like,
I just want to say one thing before we go to the next segment is that, like, yes, it is expensive. People are paying those prices, so the Canadians continue to charge them. But I just think it's really sad how families have been priced out of this activity. You should be able to afford to take a family of 4 with 2 adults and 2 kids and have a nice time and not use like an entire 2-week paycheck on it.
yes. And at the same time, if you are being priced up by the Canadians, highly recommend PWHL Montreal in Verdun. And Place Bell next year, or the Laval Rocket on Fridays and Saturdays, where you're getting your value of money worth there. And Place Bell is a rocking place. So highly recommend that if you still want your hockey fix and you don't want to be part of the abomination of pricing at the Bell Center. We have 2 more big questions we want to get to, both related to the 26th overall draft pick, and those are going to be coming up next. But first, as I said off the top of the show, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Can McDavid and the Oilers somehow make it to the Stanley Cup final? Is Jake Ottinger going to continue to be a brick wall? Will the Rangers ever score a goal on Sergei Bobrovsky? You can check the odds on all of these things on FanDuel right now. And with any $5 bet, you can win $150 in bonus bets. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens. We are down to the last part of our Friday mailbag, and we have 2 questions that kind of tie into the Winnipeg Jets first overall or first round pick that we got, us specifically, not anyone on the Montreal Canadiens. Laura and I are making this pick, and you're all going to have to deal with that in the Sean Monahan trade. Laura, do you want to start with the one that talks about Buffalo and David Savard?
Yes, I feel like it makes sense because then it ties into the next one. And this comes from Eric Brian M on Twitter. The Sabres have a talented, albeit young defense. Acquiring a D-vet to serve as a mentor could help solidify their back end and pay huge dividends next season. Is there a package Montreal could build for Buffalo's 11th overall pick for Savard and the 26th overall pick? Montreal will take Seneca and Yzerman at 11. Or Yzerman at 11. Sorry. Or.
And so it's like, I look at this and I go, okay, that means the Canadiens then are going to still be drafting at 5th overall. If I'm understanding this tweet correctly, that was sent to us.
Yes.
If that is an opportunity that is available, I'm running to the podium for that, because getting a second top 12 pick, where here's the thing is they could pick Seneca, they could pick Yzerman, they could pick defense here, and I wouldn't be upset at it. Assuming at 5th overall, they take a swing on like a T.J. Ginla or a Berkeley Catton, Caden Lindstrom, Demidov, if he is there. I love the idea of this. I don't know if the Sabres will go for it, though, because that is asking a lot.
You gotta throw in something else.
And yeah, do they want Josh Anderson?
No.
And here's the thing: is like, yes, Yolonen could be one of those guys potentially, someone who is actually looking for a role on a team that needs some potential offensive depth on a team next year. And I look at the Sabres and think they've always done a really good job drafting in where market inefficiencies are. I look at Zach Benson. Did they need Zach Benson? Maybe not. They had a lot of skilled forwards, but he was there and they picked the best player available. They do a very good job doing these drafting things that I think if they're looking at 11th overall and they see a guy they want, they're not going to trade that pick for David Savard because they are a team that is flawed, that needs to get to that next level and at the same time still keep their coffers filled. I love the idea of this in that if the Sabres are desperate enough to do that, you sprint to the phone, you send David Savard on his way with a really nice basket of fruit and wines and smoked meats and everything else and say thank you and give him his big fancy video for before the game when the Habs lose 6-3 to Buffalo on a game where Buffalo had 7 shots on goal only because that's how these go. But you do that in a heartbeat. I love the idea of that. I just don't know if it's actually going to be a realistic option that will be brought up on the draft floor. But we did get a longer email about the 26th overall
pick. Yes, so this comes from our really good friend, Robert Rice, a fellow alum of Habs Eyes on the Prize. And this is a mailbag question. Question for the 2024 draft, or maybe this mutates into a segment due to my rambling. It's not actually that long. Am I the only one who thinks it's a bit odd that many already consider Montreal's second first-round pick, which is the 26th overall by way of Winnipeg, to be traded away ahead of time? I'm trusting in Hughes' ability to make good trades, but it strikes me that if the end game is to build a contender, they will come out of this 3-year stretch of rebuilding with just 7 selections in the top 64 if we see this 26th overall pick packaged away. I also acknowledge that next year the Canadiens will, again, potentially have 2 first-round picks again, but I feel like the narrative will again be, what's the harm in trading one of them? While yes, players taken in the 2024-2025 drafts outside the top 5 range, maybe 3 to 5 years away from being real contributors, they may line up with future team needs when they aim to start properly contending. Given how often it is that a cup champion team often relies on a couple of cheap young players to help them out, it feels like it could be Hughes is hindering his odds down the line if he doesn't leave himself some additional options for cheap reinforcements when the Habs aim to take a championship. So part of this feels like Hughes has kind of conditioned us to expect this now. But part of this also feels like, they gave up 2 picks for Alex Newhook. 2 picks. Right? So I feel like there's like the FOMO of that. Like what could have been with those 2 picks is kind of weighing on this opinion, which I kind of agree with Robert here, but I also think that if there's something good to be had, let's do that.
I also think that they may keep this one depending on if there's a player they like, or instead of trading this one, they might trade the Sean Monahan loaded condition pick to another team next year and keep this one this year. It's like you said, is that we've been conditioned to assume Kent Hughes is going to do something just before the draft or at the NHL draft. That's just kind of how he operates, and it comes out of nowhere. So we're not going to hear anything about anything until it happens, especially with Hughes. And at 26th overall, there are still quality players there. We have to talk to more of our prospect experts to be like, what about Cole Hudson? What about Ryder Ritchie? What about et cetera at this spot here? Because as we've seen, the Canadiens are also comfortable keeping that. They kept that their second first round pick in the 2022 draft when they picked Philip Machar. They will absolutely potentially hold on to that unless there is a player that Hughes is absolutely head over heels for getting. I don't know if it's Trevor Zegras. I don't know if it's Nikolai Ehlers. I don't know who it might be, but if that opportunity is there, I think that we expect something to happen. I don't think he's trading 5th overall unless he's getting like a slam dunk mega return in this for right now. So that leaves us, hey, if we can use this other pick where your odds of getting a quality NHL player are drastically going down, let's get somebody who is a proven entity. And I think if they're young enough, that they fit, he's not trading it for, a 31-year-old player, which would be different if this was like a cup contending team right now. And this is that final piece. I'm leaning towards keeping it, barring some incredible trade package. I think that adding more and more prospects is never a bad thing. You're not going to sign all of them, but you give yourself so many other cracks at the apple with this that it gives you an opportunity to maybe find that guy who comes out of nowhere and is that stud on your team, like Arturi Lehkonen was, like Brendan Gallagher has been, etc. in there. Yes.
I just wanted to say, for everyone who's been asking us to help explain that Calgary pick conditions, I've actually consulted a hockey fan friend of mine who's also a lawyer, who's going to explain it all to me, and then I'm going to read it on the show soon.
That is what we love to hear. We are going to wrap up this episode. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. You can follow us on Twitter at @LO_Canadiens, LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com. Follow Laura at The Active Stick. Follow myself at Scott Matla. Laura will have the show on Sunday. I am off for the long weekend here in the States for Memorial Day. I will be back for Monday night's show into Tuesday. We will get into your Nepo Baby lines and so much else. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you all next time.